And the first lesson of Unit 5 is Lesson 21. It's talking about populations and samples. So let's kind of figure out the difference between those two things. First thing is populations. So a population is the entire group of individuals versus the sample, which is a small portion of that group. So when we have this example here, it says that there are 250 7th grade students in a school. So the population would be all 250 7th grade students. Okay, so the population is everyone in that group. And the sample would be only 7th grade students who play sports, right? So population, if I have a population, if all of these dots over here represent my population, right? All of these people are in my population. And if I wanted to take a sample of that population, I would maybe only pick a few. Okay, so population is the big group, sample is it's like the smaller piece of that group, right? So out of all 250 7th graders is my population, and my sample is only those 7th graders who play sports. Okay, so sample is the smaller piece. When you are identifying populations, so what you want to do is pick the population that makes the most sense based the scenario that you're given. So this question here says that a snack food company is conducting a study about the favorite snacks for teenagers in the United States. So the study is about favorite snacks for teenagers in the United States. Which group is the population of this study? Arizona residents from age 13 to 19, all United States residents, Canadian residents from 13 to 19, or United States residents aged 13 to 19. Well, think about it. I want to know what the favorite snack is for teenagers, right? So if I want to know what the favorite snack for teenagers is, do I really want to know what the favorite snack is for people between like 20 and 30? Or what about from 40 to 90? Or what about from 0 to 12? I don't need to know everyone, just teenagers. So I don't want to pick all of the United States. Also, Canada is not a part of the United States, so I don't want to ask Canadians aged 13 to 19 about their favorite snacks because I want to know what the US's favorite snack is, right? The United States. So now I'm left between these two options. This one says Arizona residents, and this one says United States residents. Well, Arizona residents, that's only one state out of all 50, right? But I want to know in the entire US. So that's not the best population either. So the population I want to pick for this one is D, which is United States residents aged 13 to 19, all of the teenagers in the United States. All right, now let's identify a sample. Okay, so it's the same exact scenario. A snack food company is conducting a study about the favorite snacks for teenagers in the United States. So we're still talking about teenagers in the United States. Remember that your sample is a smaller group of your population. So our population was the United States residents. So that means that that can't be my sample. My sample needs to be a bit smaller. But I'm still not talking about Canadian residents, and I still don't want to know every single person's opinion, because I only want to know teenage opinions, right? Teenagers in the United States. So if I were to pick this A, Arizona residents, right, that's a small sample of my entire population. So I would want to pick A. Alrighty, so getting data. A researcher is studying insect species in a rainforest, and I think that's ants, to observe their behavior. What way is the best way for her to get data for her study? So she's studying insect species in a rainforest, and I don't think that's ants. What word was I trying to type there? Let's read the, maybe it is ants. Maybe it's areas. We'll figure it out. I'm sorry, I made a typo, and it's a typo I can't figure out. What's the best way for her to get the data for her study? So she's wanting to do an investigation on insect species in the rainforest to observe their behavior. Okay. A says to collect a sample of insects from only one area of the desert. Okay. Collect all of the insects from the rainforest. Collect a sample of insects from one area of a rainforest. And collect one insect from the rainforest. All right, well, A is talking about a desert, right? And a desert and a rainforest are very different. So if I were to pick an insect from the desert, I don't think that would tell me a lot about rainforest insects. So I'm going to cross that one off right away. The next one says to collect all of the insects from the rainforest. That would probably take her almost her entire life, going around the rainforest and picking up and collecting every single insect. So that one's I think that's a bit way too crazy. That's not really very realistic. C says collect a sample of insects from one area of the rainforest. That could work, right? Pick one small area and collect all those insects to do some studies with. And D says collect one insect from the rainforest. Well, if I'm only collecting one insect, is that a good representation of the entire population? I don't think so, right? That's only one insect. There's so many different kinds. So here I would want to pick C. Right, a production company is studying the television viewing habits of families in Rockville, a town with 5,000 families. What is the best way for the compact to collect data? Okay, so there's a lot of families in this city, right? There's 5,000. Now, I don't want to go around and try and collect data from all 5,000 because that's crazy, right? So I'm not going to survey all 5,000. And surveying one family, that's not enough either. I want to survey a few more than one. This A says survey 100 families in Parkville. Well, we're not talking about Parkville, we're talking about Rockville, right? So I want to survey 100 families in Rockville. All right, so now we're going to be talking about how to pick the best populations and best samples to represent those. Okay, it says that this study population includes 300 basketball players, 400 football players, and 200 baseball players. Sorry. Which sample best represents the population? So when you are looking for best sample questions like this, what you need to look for is, well, with my population, right? My population has the most football players, right? Most football players. It has the least baseball players. And in the middle, I have basketball players. Right, because 450 is the biggest number, so that's why I have the most. 200 is the smallest number, so that's why that's the least. And 300 is kind of right in the middle, so that's why that's my middle. So what we need to look for in all of these options is I need to look for one that has the most football players, the least baseball players, and a middle amount of basketball players. So let's look at A. A has 30 basketball players, 90 football players, and 20 baseball players. That one's okay, so let's leave that one and let's look at the next one. 60 basketball players, 90 football players, and 40 baseball players. That one also works. C has the same amount of players for all three sports. Now, I don't want to pick that one because since there are so many more football players than there are baseball players, this should at least be double, and it's not, so that's not a good one. And if I look at D, there's more baseball players than any other sport, and baseball players should have the least, so I don't want to pick that one. So now I'm between A and B. Well, let's kind of think about it. Right, I'm going from 450, 300, and then 200, right? If I have 90 football players, 60 basketball players, that's a good jump. If I'm going from 90 to 30, that's a 60% decrease. And that's kind of a bit drastic based off of the numbers that we have here, because the numbers we have up here are pretty evenly spaced out, which means I want to pick numbers that are also evenly spaced out for my sample. So I would want to pick B. All right, so here's another one. A sample study includes 1,400 men and 1,400 women. Which sample best represents this population? Well, since both the number of men and the number of women are the same in my population, I want to pick an answer that's as close to even as possible, right? So if I look at A, there's only 12 men and 130 women. That's not a good sample because my population is even. Okay? B has 62 and 95, 140 and 24, and 60 and 72. So out of those three options that we have left, which sample has the closest to being even? Closest to being even. 62 and 95, 140 and 24, or 60 and 72. Well, 140 and 24, those are way far apart. 62 and 35, that's a difference of about 30 people. And 68 and 72, that's a difference of only 4. So I want to pick D because that is the closest to being even. Here's another one where we're talking about 150 dogs, 75 cats, and 15 birds. So based off of these numbers here, which category should have the most? When I'm picking my sample, which category should have the most? Hopefully you're saying dogs, right? Because dogs has the most. So this is going to be the most. What about the least? Which category should have the least? Hopefully you are saying birds, right? Because birds only has 15, which is the smallest amount. So that means I'm not picking A, right? Because that's all even. My numbers aren't even. I don't want an even sample. I'm not going to pick B because there are more birds than any other animal, and that doesn't make sense. C has 15 dogs, 7 cats, and 7 birds. The reason why I don't want to pick this one is because look at the number of cats and the number of birds in our population. I have 75 cats and 15 birds. Those are not anywhere close to being the same number, so why would I want to have the same number in my sample? Which means I want to pick D. Whoops. If I pick D here, 14 is the most, 7 is about half of that, which is what it is here, and 2 is also the least. And there's a pretty big jump between cats and birds, so D would be the best one. And then here's our last example. So this one's a little bit different because all the other ones we were decreasing from our population to sample. This one we're going to be increasing. It says that a study population includes 25 girls and 40 boys. Which sample best represents the population? So there are more boys than there are girls, right? So that means that I want to pick one where there are more boys than girls. So let's look through these. Cross off B, cross off D, right? Because that is equal. And in this sample, or this population, for the very last one, there are more girls. So not good representation. Also, C is also equal, right? 200 and 200. Don't want to pick that one. A is where we want to go because there are more boys than girls, right? And the amount of boys is appropriate compared to the amount of girls, right? Because we had 25 to 40, and then here we have 125 to 200. So this would be a good population for our sample. All right, hopefully this helped explain the difference between populations and samples and how you can pick which ones are best based off of the information that you're given and kind of being able to look through some and cross off some right away. Let me know if you need any extra help with anything. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day and I will talk to you later. Bye.